Hey guys, Bryce here. So I'm coming from a different location. I'm coming from my girlfriend's house. So, you might see there's the, what is that called? The little car toy shaped like couch thing. You might see the child run down the stairs and maybe he comes inside the interview. I don't know exactly, but they're gonna be talking about working on training a new sales rep. So right now what we're doing inside of my company is we decided to bring on a new sales rep to take both calls from my accounting firm as well as for my mentorship program. And there's a lot of different things that like when you're trying to develop your company to a point to where you're no longer the one taking the sales calls. And as some of you guys might know, like in times past, I've brought on different sales reps. I've had like different types of sales reps. So I'm going to kind of talk about like what to look out for, what is a sales rep, what are different types of sales reps, how to manage the sales reps, what to look for, how to vet them, how to train them properly, just so when the time is right for you, maybe the time is right now for you to be looking for someone to manage the sales side of your business. Um, Historically, the sales side is always the part that I've liked the most. That's always the last thing that I've always subcontractor or outsourced out. So I'm going to kind of tell you the things that I've learned along the journey. I purchased a lot of courses and programs about how to do this stuff. I purchased an $18,000 course on how to like build a sales team. I've invested $20,000, $30,000 on bad sales hires. I spend more in commissions than what a lot of people have made it in their business, just on like the 10% commission that we give to a sales rep, or the 12% or 15, depending on different bonus structures. I'm not going to quite go into different bonus structures today or compensation structures. I'll probably do that inside of like another video, but I just want to kind of make a really easy video for someone who's intermediate, even someone who's like more beginner, to understand like what you actually need. Because one thing that most people do, and this is something I even did wrong too, was like bring on a sales rep prematurely before you kind of have certain KPIs and certain things in place. So number one, what is a sales rep? So a sales rep is someone who represents your company, and basically they're basically bringing people into your ecosystem and into your business. So whether that's to do all of your services or whether just do one service, then inside, like the customer success manager will then take them through out all of your other services and try and cross sell and upsell. So we're just talking specifically in this call about, or in this video, about the beginner ones, the people who bring them into the first service, the first product you have. So number one, there's an outbound sales rep. Now, basically what that means is they're doing anything from either phone dials, text message, email, cold email, LinkedIn, Facebook, social media, etc., to go and create an opportunity for your company to bring the person in and close them. Now, there's different types of outbound and inbound sales reps. So we're going to first talk about outbound, then inbound. Then I'm going to distinguish between the different sales reps. So inbound is more when the lead has already like initiated some sort of contact with your company. Maybe they filled out a website form. Maybe they have senior pro advisor. Maybe they have senior LinkedIn account. They reach out to you first. Maybe they call your company because you have like a number on your website for people to call if they need help. Maybe they've scheduled. It's just basically something on the calendar has been scheduled by them and not initiated by you. Now, the next one is called as SDR. It's a sales development rep. Generally, these sales development reps are the ones that are doing more of the outbound prospecting. In a lot of cases, they're more of like junior people or people who are just getting started in the sales game. They have a lot more energy and a lot more hustle. On average, SDRs do anywhere between about 100 to about 300 either dials or outbound pieces of communication every single day. Now, the reason why they can do such a high volume is number one, because they have higher energy. Number two, it's because they're doing outbound. So it's really dictated by your ability to go and find and scrape and purchase great lead lists in order for them to have really good opportunity. It's called opportunity for them. Opportunity just means like the number of leads and the number of interested parties that potentially could have in order to go and actually make a commission and actually go and grow the business. If they don't have a lot of that opportunity, or you don't know how to get enough leads for them to go and scrape, then it can be a little bit challenging. And that's why outbound is generally like the first place most people start when going and building a sales team. Next is going to be SDRs that are more like end to end. So these are end to end salespeople. These are people that can do outbound. They can also, so they can build interest, they can hold interest, they can also sign the person up. In some industries, it's called closing. In some industries, it's called enrolling. Just depends on your terminology and the way that you kind of view sales. If it's closing, it's more of like it's a little bit more of a different mentality than if you're enrolling. So for example, I used to think when I was getting started that for like my mentorship program, we were closing people into the mentorship program, right? And but that would mean that you would just take on like whoever you kind of wanted to. But it's like as we get more and more experience, and as we only like take on 10 to 12 people per month, it's like, we've kind of held that 10 to 12 people per month clients, or we call them mentorship participants at this moment in time. We're only holding that number at 10 to 12 because we want to really be selective with who we take on, right? So we don't want to just take on any Joe Schmo that we don't really feel has the criteria, the work ethic, or the just kind of propensity to do well in business. Which there's a lot of programs, they might have like 1 million members who join their mentorship program or XYZ, but it's the same mentality I've kind of built inside of my accounting firm, right? We're trying to be selective, we're trying to get the cream of the crop, we're trying to get the best quality people, so we don't have to work with 1 million people. We only want to work with a select few who we know we can get results for, we know we can do like a long-term type of relationship with. So that's why we use the term enrolling, right? Because it's not just us selling someone, it's not them buying, it has to be a two-way street where it's like they think that we can get some results, they're pretty fired up about this stuff, and then for us it's like, okay, do we actually think we can help this person out? Because like there's times on like certain calls where it's like you can kind of feel that the person just is not really ready to start a business. A lot of different reasons why, and a lot of different feelings. I mean, at this point we've had, I think it's getting close to 1,700 people apply for our mentorship program, right? So it's just like you can tell who's going to get results versus who won't. So it's like, if I don't think someone can get results, it's like, hey, this isn't a really good fit. Maybe you can go and do this other person's course. Maybe they're a better fit for you or whatever. But so in the end to end, it's a very skill position. So it's a mixture of like skill set as well as hustle, right? Because they're creating opportunity for themselves, and they're also closing opportunity for themselves. Now, a lot of organizations will do this, but they have like a really high turnover because that's a very tough position to go, especially if you're creating the opportunity, but you don't really have a lot of product market fit or a lot of authority when you're actually doing the calls, especially for like high ticket bookkeeping, that can be tough, right? Another one is inbound enrollment or inbound closer, inbound sales rep, right? That means that someone has come in and actually like taken action. They're just coming here. They respect the company. They respect the person who is on the actual consultation call, and they just know a lot about you. They're very well informed. That's a little bit easier for them to close. Now, there are a lot of pitfalls that someone can have, and we'll go over those pitfalls in a couple minutes that can happen on that inbound call, but it is a lot easier. So a lot of sales reps in today's kind of market, especially in the online space, are looking for working with companies that either have like really good recurring revenue structures, or they have very high volume of inbound stuff. Now, if you're a very low volume kind of business, right? Like your goal is only get to like, 5,000, 10,000, $15,000 per month. Having someone who just takes inbound calls is not very realistic. So oftentimes you're going to want either an outbound SDR, or you're going to want some sort of like end-to-end sales rep, but you might have to give a higher bit of commission in order for the person to go, because you want them to be able to make like a part-time income unless they're working with like multiple companies at the same time. So if you don't have a lot of opportunity, we'll talk about like when to actually bring it on. Maybe we can talk about like when to bring on like a sales rep. So we'll talk about that a little bit later at the end. I want to kind of build up exactly what that looks like. But the rep that you get is going to really determine on like, where are you in your business? How many leads do you have? How respected is your company? What are your price points? What is your ability to actually close the deals? Because if you can't close the deals on your own, it's very hard for you to go and bring on a sales rep, right? So what to look for in a sales rep? You're generally looking for someone that has like really good people skills. You're looking for someone that can adapt to a script. You're looking for someone who can handle rejection. You're also looking for someone who has a fair bit of empathy as well as authority. So a lot of the challenge when it comes to signing someone up on a consultation call is that most people are not very empathetic with other people's situations, and most people can't convey authority. So as soon as, like, for example, high ticket bookkeeping, right? As soon as the person starts challenging most people's authority, they kind of break down. Like when they ask, well, how many years have you been doing this? Where's your website? Most people kind of get flustered and they just start losing like authority over time. And it makes it very hard for you to objection handle at the end of the call. And it causes the people to think that they know more than you about accounting and bookkeeping, even though they don't. And that's why they got on the phone with you, right? So it's like you have to be able to have a lot of authority and hold your ground and really like tell people, hey, this is what needs to happen in order for you to have a successful outcome working with me. But they also have to have empathy, because if you go too far on the other side where it's like, I know every single thing about life and business and blah, 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 you're going to kind of lose a person because you get alienated from them. So it's like once you can really kind of mix those two, where it's like, I know what I'm doing, I'm in high demand, I have very strong skills I developed, whether it's you developed it one day or you developed it 20,000 years, right? You still have a skill set that the average person does not have, and something that's very valuable to the organization that is going to be working with you. And a lot of people have empathy as well, where it's like they kind of can understand where the person's going, especially if you worked in different various companies in your past background. Like you understand like what are the different challenges that are going on with business. You might not know how to like run a $10 million per year business or start a $10 million per year business, but you understand a lot of the different things that kind of go in there. And that's a big thing too. Like make sure that when you first start your company, you actually start taking some consultation calls yourself. A couple reasons why, like the sales rep will need to see an example of like what should be going on inside the consultation calls, so they can kind of like camera got a little blurry, so they can actually know exactly what should they be saying versus what should they not be saying. They should know like what is good behavior versus what is bad behavior, what is like realistic versus what's unrealistic, what should they be saying. If you don't have that, number one, you can't lead any sales rep because you can't really tell them when they're doing something wrong, or you can't really help them get better, and they end up just leaving your company because it's just no leadership structure in place. And if you've run a business in the past, right, maybe you've been pretty high up in a company, it's not the same as starting a company. That's the one thing that most like bookkeepers and accountants kind of struggle with, right? They're like, oh, I run like $1 million business or a $10 million business. And it's like, okay, cool. No, how many clients do you have? It's like, I have 3. Okay. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just like the way they kind of see business is they see business as if they're already driving like a ship that, is already going 1 million miles an hour. But it's like the skill set you need to kind of develop in the beginning is different. So you have to understand sales, you have to learn marketing in order to be an organization that can start getting up to those points that you're looking at and that you're thinking about. But until then, it's like, you really have to develop those skill sets. So for example, one of our students, his name is Adam. I call him Wiesner. Um, he was actually really good at sales, and it took him probably about 2 months to get good at sales. And then as soon as he started getting some clients consistently, like I think it was like $5,000 a month, then he actually met this person who was initially like a life coach. So he had the guy basically come on for like part-time to do like basically end to end. The guy had a couple of connections with business owners. The guy already had like years of talking to people and a lot of experience. So when they actually started working together, we just gave him our script that I give all the students out of the program, like a customized sales script based on like where their experience is, what they're doing, and like how that's actually going to help the client who's sitting in front of them. So it just makes it way easier for you to be able to like set up the clients at those higher price points. So we tweaked that for his sales rep to make it a lot easier, especially because like, the sales rep is not an accountant, right? So you need a slightly different script. And he was able to sign up, I think, a $2,000 client like in his first like 2 weeks of working together, right? So it doesn't take a lot. It's just you need to be very skilled when you do actually bring the person on, because then if you're doing this on your own, like you don't have someone like myself who can help train your sales reps, then you do need to have like a higher level of skill set. If you do a mentorship program, whether it's my program or someone else's, and they have like a really good sales component, you could plug them in a lot easier and not have to be as far or as good as sales. It's just I'm speaking to you if maybe you're trying to do this stuff on your own, right? This is kind of what you're needing, what you're looking for. How to manage a sales rep. So when I got started, my main weakness was that I really was more of a laissez-faire kind of leadership, and that works really well with like when the service is black and white, like bookkeeping, right? So when you bring on like a staff accountant, even like a virtual assistant, it's black and white. It's how the work gets done or the work doesn't get done. And that works really well for certain types of personality and certain skill sets. But when it comes to sales, that's actually not the best, right? So what I've kind of learned is like you have to be able to look at their calls. So like I have all of my sales rep kind of record their calls, right? To just be like, okay, so what's going on inside the moment? Like how do they respond to certain situations and scenarios? So I'm looking at every single call, and I'm looking at least one time per day or one time per week. I'm actually going over the call with the actual sales rep. And then I'm actually saying, okay, so this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, so we need to change, this is what you need to tweak, this is just everything that we need for you to kind of get better at. And it constantly makes them improve. They also need to kind of do an end of day report where it's like, hey, every person you spoke to today, like what were their good things, what were their bad things, what were your statistics? If I'm doing like an SDR, for example, we look at touch points, we look at calls invited to, we look at calls booked, and then we look at like how many calls actually showed up. So these are the 4 things that we have for like an SDR, someone who's like going outbound. For someone who's more inbound, it's like, how many calls were taken, what were the name of the different people, what were their problems, what were the challenges, did you make an offer, what were the objections, what's the time frame, did you schedule a follow-up call, and just making sure that we have very, very, very succinct and very detailed tracking. Another reason why it's so important is because if you maybe get a sales rep, they do a consultation call with somebody, but they don't sign the person up, you need to have really detailed data, because a lot of times the way that we do our marketing, the way we do our sales, the lead is going to actually come back to you. And if you don't know what you guys talked about, what you proposed, what was the proposal that was sent to them, did you even use a proposal, or was it just like talking on the phone, did you use any slide? Like, we need to know exactly what happened so we can continue that conversation exactly where it was if that sales rep is no longer with you. Now, if you don't have that, it's just this black hole of data, and it gets very hard for you to do that. And you can end up losing a lot of follow-up sales because you get on the phone. It's like, so what was your problem again? What did you guys talk about? And it just looks like you guys are very, very unorganized. You have to get organized from the start. And then we also give like our students like tracking sheets that they can actually have their sales rep and themselves like fill in every single day. So they already have this data and just like never like leaves them. So you can just like on your spreadsheet hit Control F, which means like control find. If you're using an Apple computer, I believe it's that little symbol thing. I think it's like Alt, or not Alt, it's like Apple symbol or whatever, plus find, and then you can do that. Obviously I have a PC, so I don't have a Mac, but that'll let you go and find the data of the person you need to, especially if you have to do a follow-up call with that person. So that's very important. Okay, so like it's so important. Like, one thing we do for the students that do have a sales rep is like we have a VA that's from my team basically go and oversee their sales rep and like make sure they're putting in those reports every single day so that they're able to keep track. And it just takes a lot of pressure off of you as a business owner. And it just works way better. Yeah, because that's the one thing I struggle with. I struggle with like holding them accountable, where it's just like every single day I didn't want to like be like, hey, put in your end of day report. So it's like we have an automation using Zapier that automatically reminds them, hey, I need your end of day report. And then from there, we have like a VA that will reach out to them personally inside of our Slack channel and be like, hey, did you do that? And if they don't do that, like if it's in a timely manner, at least like one day before my like team meeting, I have to ask them ahead of time, hey, put in those numbers, dude. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And then they put in the numbers. We come to like we have like a morning meeting we do with both our SDRs as well as our enrollment specialists and our advisors. So everyone just kind of like comes together and we talk about like, what are the good things about the leads? What are the bad things about the leads? What can we do to improve it? What can we do to make the system easier, make the system better? How do we get more leads? Like, do they want more leads? Do they want more quality leads? Just kind of really balancing that thing out. But it all starts with accountability and just starts with really bringing the right people into play. The next thing is going to be, when to actually bring on a sales rep. So it really depends on your organization. The goal is really to always, if someone's going to come work with you full-time, you need to be able to provide them a full-time income. Now, for an SDR, that's someone who's like creating opportunities, that's generally going to be about, they're looking for about $3,000 to about $5,000 per month, right? It's kind of what they're looking to make as a full-time SDR. In some cases, they might want to make more, depending on like where they've come from, like what they've done in the past. They might want to make more money. The more money someone wants to make in general, this is not all the time, means the higher the skill set that they already possess, because oftentimes in sales, a lot of the stuff is commission basis. There might be a little bit of a base. We'll talk about like a base, and again, we're not going to get too deep into compensation, but generally, like if they've been a commission only person and they're used to making 10 grand a month, that means they would have had to generate, if they're getting 10% commission, $1 million, they've probably generated about $100,000 per month or $1 million per year worth of volume for the company that they're working with. So generally gonna be more experience. But in a lot of cases, if you're just getting started, you're just trying to like build like a side hustle type business, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to work with you full time if they're trying to make that much, because that's what most people's goals are. But if you're looking for someone to do like some part-time stuff, you don't really need to do as much. You could pay them $1,000 and between $1,000 and about $1,500 per month, but just know they're not going to give you their full amount of time because they are working other businesses and other opportunities or other clients at the same time. Now, there are pros and cons to each. I actually, if looking back over my trajectory, I actually like people who are more part-time, especially if you can go get them from like a really, really, really large organization and have them like do some part-time hours so they can like go and fill up some, just bring in some extra income. or maybe the opportunity got lowered inside of their existing job or their existing company they're working with, and they're just trying to go and make up the difference of what they used to make. So let's say, for example, they're working with a company, and that company was giving them like they were producing about $100,000 per month for that company. They're making like $10,000 a month. Okay, so let's say that the other company expanded. Now they have less opportunity. So now instead of going and doing you know, $10,000 per month worth of commissions, now the company is only giving them $8,000 per month worth of commissions. Now most people have built their lifestyle around their current income level. So what that means then is that they might be short $2,000 a month. So then you go in and find them. They're like, oh yeah, hey, this is something I want to do. I need to make an extra, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. And it's like, okay, cool. I can definitely support that. I can definitely provide that. And then from there, you get someone who's much more trained, because they're actually at the large organization is putting all their time into training them. So you don't have to train them as much. You do need to supervise them just to make sure they still are hitting their KPIs, but it's a lot easier than trying to train someone from scratch who maybe has not come from another organization or has not actually built up the proper skill set. Now, when to bring it on? Okay, so it's like whenever you can afford to pay someone about $1,000, $1,500 per month as an SDR. For a closer, you generally closers is in this space. If you're going to stay below $20,000 per month, is a little bit tough, right? Because the one good thing about it is that you could be paying them 10%, but 10% off of $5,000 per month is pretty good. It's like, what is that, $500 a month? So that's not very good. So you generally need to go and maybe you'll have to go and give them more like 20% or 30% in order to like make them good, right? Because like you really don't want to bring on like a closer full time unless you can afford to pay him full time money. So for most people, if you're just going to have your goal in your business be to like get to $20,000 per month, it might not make sense for you to bring on like a full like closer enrollment specialist. You might just want an SDR who can then get enough appointments for you on the phone for you to go and get to your income goal. Then once you guys have reached your income goal, you could just part ways. And that's why having a part-time one is probably like the best option for most people watching this video. But yeah, that's mainly it. So if you're already at 10 grand a month, right, it does make sense for you to go and bring on the SDR, because then you can pay him a base of $1,000 to $1,500 per month just as like a base. And then you could either keep them on for like a runway of 2 months or 3 months. If they don't produce at least what they're, if they don't produce at least what they are bringing in, at least from like a 2x, 5x, or even a 10x, then it's generally time to let them go. In some cases, even for SDRs, you could even go international, which is something I've done in the past and I do even now. They just do require a little more training. So you could have an SDR, which is basically like a VA, go out and do a lot of like social media prospecting, cold emailing, cold calling, et cetera, and then you could pay them, like if you pay them like about $1,000, even $500 per month, and then you put like $500 per month, then commission of like 10% of whatever they're bringing in. If they were to bring in $5,000 per month worth of clients for you, that's 500 that you're paying them as a base and 500 that you're paying them from commission every single month. Now it's $1,000 per month, and that's something that will make a lot of them very, very, very happy. And that's kind of what our strategy was historically. And now we're kind of like moving over, because like for the mentorship program, for example, we're getting a lot of volume. We're getting anywhere between about 5 to 7 people per day applying to learn more about the program. And that's a lot of people. 5 times 5, 25, or 7 times 5 is 35 hours. It's almost a full-time commitment to doing those calls. That's why I brought on like a sales rep or an enrollment specialist to be able to, number one, go and like screen people before we even like do a call. And if like the person is qualified, it's like they don't really talk to the enrollment specialist or into the advisor. It's just too much volume. And from there, it just allows us to be able to like do the stuff I really like doing, which is like more of the coaching, more of the work, more managing my internal team. And then, yeah, just makes everything easier. So hopefully you found this video to be informative. I know if I would have had something like this, I know this is kind of basic for some, but it's probably a lot for others. So if that's you, and maybe you want some help either building out your sales team, maybe you want some help just getting started in your business, you've seen some other videos on the channel, go ahead and click the link inside of the description, book a call with me or my advisor, see if we can help you out. Again, like we are pretty selective because we do want to make sure we can help you out if we do give you an offer to join the program. So why don't you, if you want some help and you want to see like if we can help you out, go ahead and click on the link inside the description, book a call to see if you qualify for our help. And I'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Take it easy and talk to you soon.